I'm here with my RoadPro 12-volt portable stove, and I wanted to make a video about this and talk about some power issues that exist with these RoadPro stoves. I get a lot of questions about them, so I thought I would do a video to answer some of those questions.
Counter cooking. No kitchen? No problem.
So this RoadPro stove is a 12-volt device, and this is the power cord that it comes with. So this is your typical 12-volt power cord, and this would plug into a cigarette lighter in a vehicle, for example. The documentation that comes with this appliance says it's 12 volts and 12 amps. And on the packaging, on the box for this appliance, it also says 12 volts and 12 amps. Now if you take 12 volts and multiply it by 12 amps, you get 144 watts. So if you know the voltage on something and the amperage on something, and if you multiply them together, you will get the wattage for that device. So when I first bought this RoadPro 12-volt portable stove, I was really excited that I would be able to use it with one of my portable power stations. That way I would not have to use this only in a vehicle. I could use it in my house, in my yard, wherever I am that I have one of my power stations. I could just plug it in and use it. Unfortunately, that was not the case. This is my 500 watt portable power station, and the 12 volt outlet is only 8 amps. So it's not strong enough to run the RoadPro 12 volt portable stove. This is my 300 watt portable power station. This also has a 12 volt 8 amp output, and I could not use it with this one either. So what I did was I bought another 500 watt portable power station. I wanted to buy another one so I could switch off with the one that I had. If there was a power outage, I wanted to have enough power to keep a small freezer running. And if I had two 500 watt portable power stations, I could do that by using one day while the other charges, and then swapping them out and using the other while the other charges, and just keep swapping them out that way. So I bought another 500 watt portable power station, and I made sure that the 12 volt output was also 12 amps. Now when I plugged the RoadPro 12 volt portable stove into this 12 volt output, you can imagine my surprise when it did not work. The documentation specifically said 12 volts, 12 amps, and here I am with a 12 volt, 12 amp output, but it wasn't working. I had one more portable power station that I kept in my car because it also jumps car batteries and inflates tires. So I got it out of my car, and the 12 volt outlet on that is a 20 amp outlet. So I plugged in the RoadPro 12 volt portable stove, and it worked perfectly with that 20 amp output. So that's when I knew it was an issue with the wattage of the appliance or the amperage of the appliance. I also knew that I was not going to be able to use it with any of the portable power stations because it seems like most of the ones on the market have either a 12 volt 8 amp output or a 12 volt 10 amp output. It was really hard for me to find the 12 volt 12 amp output, so I needed to find another solution if I wanted to use this appliance while not in a vehicle. So that's when I started researching AC to DC adapters, and I needed to find one that was going to be strong enough and handle a load large enough to power this RoadPro 12 volt portable stove. And I found out about this one. This is a RoadPro AC DC adapter, and it says the output is 12 volts, 15 amps, a maximum of 200 watts. So according to those specs, this should be able to work fine with the RoadPro 12 volt stove. I also should mention that on the side of the stove there is this flap, and this is where you can store the power cord, and there's also a fuse here. And the fuse here is a 15 amp fuse. So that's really the solution to our problem. Even though the packaging says 12 volt, 12 amp, and the documentation says 12 volt, 12 amps, the fuse here is a 15 amp fuse. So if we take 12 and multiply it by 15, we get 180 watts. So with regards to a 12 volt outlet, the minimum amperage that you need is 15 amps to run this appliance. That's why it would not run on the 12 volt 12 amp outlet on the portable power station. I've also gotten messages from people telling me that they've been using this appliance in their car and it has completely ruined their cigarette lighter, their 12 volt outlet in their car. So I looked into that, and what I found was that many cars only have a 12 volt 10 amp outlet. So if you're going to plug this into a cigarette lighter that's only 12 volt, 10 amps, it's actually going to overload that, which is why you might see some melting, and a lot of people are saying it's just breaking their cigarette lighter, their 12 volt outlet, and it's going dead on them. I know there's probably some very technical scientific language to go along with that. I'm just trying to explain this as simply as possible and how I understand it. So I've used this several times in my car and I never had a problem with it. So I looked into what kind of 12 volt outlets I have in my car, and I drive a Ford Escape. I have a 2015 Ford Escape, and I looked into that, and I actually have 15 amp outlets in my car. So my 12 volt outlet is actually 15 amps, which is why this will work in my car. I'm not going to have an issue. My old car was a 2005 Ford Escape, and I looked into that also, and I believe back then it was a 20 amp outlet. I know most SUVs and trucks have 12 volt 15 amp outlets, so there's not going to be a problem running this in a truck. Some of the larger vehicles even have 12 volt 20 amp outlets, so once again, there's not going to be an issue running this in a truck. The issue comes when you're trying to run this in a small car or a typical passenger car where you only have a 12 volt 10 amp outlet. That's why people are seeing issues with things melting and things burning out and outlets just dying. That's because this takes more power than one of those outlets could really handle. So here's the connection for the AC/DC adapter, and all you have to do is plug the appliance into the adapter and then plug the adapter into a typical AC outlet. And for the purposes of this video, I will be plugging it into this wattage meter. So when we plug it in, we could see what kind of wattage this appliance is using. So we can see it's going up to 176 watts, 182, 185, 195, 198, 200 watts, 204 watts, 205 watts, 206, 207. And it peaks out at just under 210 watts. Once it gets up to about 210 watts, the power consumption then goes down. And we see the wattage going down. Now we're below 200. And the wattage will continue to go down as this appliance continues to heat up and cook. It's been several minutes now, and you can see the wattage is still decreasing. It's at about 123 watts right now. So a few more minutes have gone by, and we can see that we're now at just below 100 watts. We're at like 99.4, 99. And it will continue to cook right around this level, right around 100 watts. So it's pretty efficient once it gets going. A question has also come up with regards to it pulling 200 watts, because if you take 12 volts, multiply it by 15 amps, you only get 180. So if it's pulling 200 watts, that's more than 180. What's going on with that? So when you convert AC power to DC power, it's not a 100% efficient conversion. So we're not actually getting 200 watts. We're pulling 200 watts, but it's only converting it to about 90% of that, which would be 180 watts, which is what the RoadPro can handle, which is 12 times 15, which is 180. So if you do the math and you take 180, divide it by 200, you get 90%. 180 is 90% of 200. So that's why we're seeing it pull 200 watts with the AC to DC conversion. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you're thinking about purchasing one of these, you'll have a better understanding of exactly how you need to power it. Or if you already have one of these and you've been having problems with powering it, hopefully this video has maybe answered a question or two. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.